question is what do you think of the job that Mayor Houston has done the last 4 years?
Good question. A lot of ground covered, but just imagine what more could have been done if there were not a lot of distractions that kept the eye off the ball, whether it's the Shredgate controversy, whether it's the wrangling over the Napa contract that eventually resulted in a supposed agreement with the National Joint Powers Alliance and the state of Minnesota that then really didn't exist, and then when it was attempted to finally formalize that agreement, the council wouldn't concur with that, to a number of other distractions that have an Inspector General debate. It's important to have an open and collaborative sense of working with the council so that, and the community, so that issues do not distract and detract from the focus of an administration. So I would say that there was great potential to do a lot more, but the focus got distracted by a lot of extraneous issues.
The mayor has ads running that talk about his work on the city's budget and sort of making some repairs there that needed to happen. What do you think about the situation the city's in currently, financially? Is there more improvement that can happen? What would you do?
Well, again, it kind of dovetails on my previous answer. Just imagine how much more could have been accomplished if there weren't a number of distractions that kept the council's eye off the ball.
But what would you do?
Well, first and foremost is I've already talked about looking at CWLP, helping shore up the financial situation of the utility, ensure that rates are kept low for ratepayers in order to be able to attract new jobs and businesses and customers and residents to the city. CWLP is one of our, it's constantly and sometimes perhaps overused, referred to as our crown jewel, and indeed it is. But how do we maintain that status as a crown jewel? We have to make sure that it is continued to be used as a way to attract new individuals to the city of Springfield, residents and businesses, to say, we through the council and our elected officials can control, maintain low rates for businesses and residents. And that's one of the things that we need to keep as an attraction. We need to focus on the corporate fund. I come from the level of government that has worked for taxpayers. Sangamon County government rarely has any kind of a fiscal crisis or a financial management issue. I've been a part of that culture of fiscal responsibility for the last 12 years, serving as county auditor. And I can't say that I'm completely responsible for that culture of fiscal responsibility, but for the last dozen years I have been helpful and responsible for helping to perpetuate that culture, and have done some things outside of my purview as county auditor that have contributed to that success with finances in Sangamon County government. So there are some things that are uniquely available to municipal governments for finances. We've done some of those things at the county level, and we can apply some of those ideas to the city of Springfield. And again, ideas that are offered. We've been leading the conversation in this campaign about ideas that are not necessarily going to be cut and dried, that are offered by a particular leader, but they are offered in the opportunity to collaborate and come together on some additional ways that one idea can be enhanced and made even better. But without those potential ideas being offered to be discussed and brainstormed with, then you'll continue to slog through what we've had in the past and what we might be seeing in the future that could have been a lot better if it were not for some of the distractions.
Do you have any thoughts about the city's tax rates? Whether they are good where they are, or whether we need to raise taxes in Springfield in any way?
I believe that they are good where they are. A lot of things have been raised just within the last 4 years. The sales tax has been raised, the sewer tax has been raised, the recycling tax has been raised. And so when it comes to the sales tax, I believe it's important that particularly with the 0.5% increase that was enacted. I believe that there was an amendment offered during that debate of the 0.5% increase. There was an amendment offered and accepted on the council that it then after 3 years would be reduced by 0.25%. I believe we need to keep our word on that, that the City Council and the City of Springfield needs to keep its word on that reduction of 0.25%, and we need to do everything we can to financially and collaboratively lead the City of Springfield to accomplish that, and if we can even reduce by the full 0.5% that was added, you know, that should be a goal that we should aim for to bring that sales tax rate back. But there have already been a lot of increases in the last 4 years. I would prefer that we not do that again. And again, if we want to be attractive, if we want to be competitive with our colleagues in Central Illinois, Bloomington Normal, Champaign-Urbana, we have to be able to have you know, meaningful components that are attractive that will bring new businesses and customers and residents to the City of Springfield. If we price our way out of being a place where people want to come to, then...
So how do we compare with them now, tax rate-wise?
I believe we're par on some rates and a little higher on others, but their population shows that something is bringing, their population strength and increasing is showing that they're doing something that perhaps Springfield is not. And I'd like to you know, do some investigative research to learn what is that and how we can bring that to the City of Springfield and be just as attractive, if not more so.
What are some of your ideas along those lines?
Well, generally to market what we offer, capitalize on our community's strengths, and those strengths are, we've already talked about CWLP, a municipally owned utility. Our educational assets, we have to trumpet District 186, we have to trumpet private school offerings, we have to trumpet Lincoln Land Community College, Robert Morris, UIS. Those educational assets have to be a part of that attractive picture that we offer. Infrastructure and interstates, I-55 and I-72. If we're able to attract a new manufacturing opportunity or a new business, we can tout the fact that it's easily, you know, products or merchandise is easily transportable through our system of I-55 and 72. And we also have to tout that we also have a lot of tourism and opportunities that we can offer. So we have to market what we have, research how we have strengths, and then research what companies might be looking for the opportunities that we have, and then go and connect with those potential businesses and customers. And I also forgot to mention the agricultural community that surrounds us. We have to you know, look into that community to see how they can play a role in marketing what we have as a potential place for companies and entities to do business here. So we have to know our strengths, aggressively market our strengths, and as I've said before, the mayor working in a partnership with the Chamber of Commerce and District 186 with Jennifer Gill, with Chris Hembrough, and the agricultural community, the Farm Bureau. That's almost, I've referred to it in the past as with the Chamber and the city, the agricultural community and the educational community being a three-legged stool that you can market that kind of strength to potential customers and businesses here. So those are the things we need to do. Market what we have successfully, and then attract new businesses to us with what we offer.
Do you have a sense of whether that's happening now? Do you feel like there is an aggressive attempt at marketing yourselves and telling Springfield's story and recruiting businesses here? I think that's happening.
I believe that needs to be stronger, and I believe it needs to be stronger with the right person who has the talents and skills to do that well. You have to have communication skills. You have to have skills that, you know, require empathy for the individuals with whom you're dealing across the table. Know what they are interested in. Know what their businesses are interested in. And I believe I bring those talents and skills to the table. It's a human relations, a human nature talent, and I believe that the things that I've had an opportunity to be engaged with, either volunteer roles or other leadership roles have allowed me to develop those skills and hopefully be able to effectively use those skills for the benefit of the city of Springfield.
Talk, if you could, about two different areas of the city that need, some redevelopment and attention: downtown and the east side. What would be your strategies for both of those areas?
Well, downtown in
particular, and how you'd approach them.
Downtown in particular, we need to elevate the awareness level of residential opportunities in downtown Springfield. We need to market what we offer and attract. For example, with Joan as a downtown resident, she knows that sometimes it might be difficult to purchase grocery needs that are in the immediate area of where you live. We need to have those kinds of shops and opportunities that are available. We need more green space downtown to attract a residential feel for young people, in particular young people that eventually may be starting families or have children. That green space opportunity is something that can be an amenity that needs to be an attraction for downtown. We need to, as we have put a laser focus on some other things, we need to put a laser focus on completing the 11th Street corridor so that that connection, I call it, for lack of a better term, the education connection, where UIS and LLCC will have easier and straightforward access to downtown. And then that will help start an interest in developing businesses and attractions for 11th Street, which then can begin to move into an eastward flow for that east side that you also mentioned, Angie. And I mentioned at my most recent press conference about trying to match Springfield's strengths to some kind of manufacturing business, or let's think out loud. Let's have an opportunity to just have our research and know where we can go and get some of those ideas and businesses to maybe find themselves located along Interstate 55, or perhaps the intersection of Interstate 55 and Interstate 72. And if we can do that in a similar way, and I've used this city example before, Twin Falls, Idaho, that attracted a manufacturing plant for Chobani yogurt to its community based on what? Interstate access and agriculture. And that's a model and a template that we should be paying attention to and replicating. But if we can do something along that corridor, working with the other levels of government with which that would involve the state of Illinois, Sangamon County, and other townships, that anything that would hinder that, let's think out loud about breaking those barriers down and then attracting something that would work westward. So that would also address some east side opportunities. So, but downtown is critical from the standpoint of a residential perspective and from a business perspective. I do not believe that we can solely keep our fingers crossed and hope that state government brings renewed opportunities. I think we need to aggressively market downtown's potential outside of the state government potential. And if the state government opportunities happen, that will just help facilitate what we can do outside of that.
Well, the Whitelaw decision will probably rest with the next mayor, whoever that might be. Do you have any thoughts on the best use of that significant piece of property?
There are a whole host of thoughts that are outlining the potential for that property. I believe that a concept of including some green space, including some residential, including some open space for an incubator concept. An incubator is where you have an opportunity to bring innovators and entrepreneurs into an open exchanging area where ideas free flow and there's an opportunity to interact throughout the day. Whatever kind of structures or buildings that would occupy that new block would have to have some kind of opportunity for an attraction of incubators, as well as some classroom opportunities. I believe strongly that we need to, although it had not been successful in the past, that doesn't mean that today's atmosphere and time frame can't be conducive to UIS or Lincoln Land offering classes downtown. I'm very interested and have met with leaders of SIU about the potential of a law school satellite in downtown Springfield, and that Y block might be as a starting from scratch concept, be able to include some kind of opportunities for that. So a mix of residential, a mix of green space, opportunity for open room space for an incubator interaction would all be the concept of that Y block. That also needs to complement other potential open canvas opportunities. I mean, if the church diagonally across the way is an opportunity that would require its raising or demolition, then we need to be aware that that could be a complementary property diagonally across the way to help foster some opportunities for that block. You've got to think ahead to what that might bring rather than the structure that exists there now. So those would be my thoughts on what that would potentially be. And I'm very excited to hear what the team has done its research on. And I think when that team brings its thoughts forward, there are a lot of great people on that team. And just as we have on other committees, we need to take very seriously what they bring to the table, because they've done some work and they also have the talent that was necessary to do that work. So.
Just on the incubator part of that, who's going to pay these people to wander around and think?
Well, there are all kinds of incubators that are involved with universities. There are also incubators that are involved with sponsorship by businesses. I mean, the concept is really kind of free-flowing and wide open. It's not necessarily governmentally funded. Many times it's privately funded, and I can show you a file on incubators that talk about how they have been successful in other communities in Illinois, including Decatur and Peoria. Springfield, unfortunately, has a lot of other communities in central Illinois that have incubators, and we do not. Some sponsored by Southern Illinois University, sponsored by Kaskaskia College. 1871 has a Chicago incubator sponsored by a whole host of private firms. Sandbox Industries is my favorite, and it's one of my favorites because it's a venture capitalist-sponsored incubator. And what I'm excited about Sandbox is, and it fits in with my theme about bringing talent back after it has an opportunity to go to college. A very close friend, a graduate of high school here in Springfield, now is an employee of Sandbox Industries because he didn't feel there was anything for him to do here in Springfield. So
Where are they?
Sandbox is in Chicago, 213 North Racine.
They have a few more cultural draws in Chicago, don't they?
Well, why can't Springfield have those cultural draws?
Just ask them.
I mean, sure. Indeed, Chicago has more cultural draws, but I believe that leadership of the city needs to attract those cultural draws, needs to foster those cultural draws, and knock on the doors of other cultural draws that make Springfield an attractive community, not just to work, but to enjoy and play in and live in and raise your family in. We have a lot of great cultural draws with Hoagland Center for the Arts and with the Muni and with other opportunities that are allowing people to develop their talents and skills outside of their 8 to 5 workplace. But I believe a mayor needs to not only effectively and efficiently manage city government, but as the salesperson in chief, make those cultural draws and opportunities on the table as well, and foster them and bring them and attract them and trumpet their success and help people get excited about more, so that when they see that excitement and enthusiasm about what we have from the person who serves and leads the city, then hopefully that snowballs into more. So that's what I would believe on the cultural draw of Springfield versus Chicago.
What would be your approach to creating a productive relationship with the city council?
It has to, and people kind of give me a nudge every now and then for my overuse of the word collaborative, but it has it has to be. And I've had experience in working with others in leadership roles as a team member and as a team leader that is fostered and based in collaboration. You have to understand that individuals on the city council, as well as the city treasurer and the city clerk, have their responsibilities and their desires to meet their constituents' needs. And so you have to understand where they're coming from, you have to understand what they're fighting for, and you have to work together with them to not only achieve their goals through their constituents, but also help them see the big picture, that not only do they work as one elected representative, but they work as one member of a team of 13 that is designed to look at the big picture of the entire city. And so you work from empathy and you work from collaboration, and you help set goals that are not only individually ward-based, but overall city-based, that everybody has agreed to initially. I think we should meet on an annual basis as a team to not just do official city business, but to think and brainstorm and see a picture of where Springfield can be and work toward achieving that. And then after you do that as a city government team, then you bring in other elements of the community as well. The social service community, the business community, the religious community, and the educational community, and you strategize together on achieving that potential picture that the city can be. Right now, I don't believe that we have that snapshot of where Springfield can be. I don't believe we have that vision, that picture, that idea that gives us the canvas is blank, and I don't think anybody has painted that to help us see where we can be. And I'd like to collaboratively, there I go again, collaboratively help us paint that picture, and then you just move toward it. And so in working with the city council, you have to understand what their needs are, their constituents' needs are, and work together to help meet their needs as well as the big picture of the city of Springfield. And with the opportunities that I've had for leadership in the past, I've had a chance to lead an organization of individuals who some didn't even speak English. And so I had to communicate and help them see what we were trying to do to move our organization forward together. And I believe we were successful with that in the 12-month period that I had an opportunity to serve in that role as president of Kiwanis International. And one of the biggest things that I was proudest of that service that I had a chance to experience was establishing a new global service project for the organization that was to eliminate maternal and neonatal tetanus from the face of the earth, and working with UNICEF to do that. Selecting one project that was going to be comfortable and understandable for all cultures of our organization was something that had to be a process that was collaborative and understanding and empathetic, but also provided leadership to help move us forward as we worked through those necessary understandings. And we resulted with that project, and we're about to complete that here in 2015 as a Kiwanis service organization.
Paul, how would you navigate what are some very strong personalities? For example, on council right now, there seem to be some conflicts on that level, not just with needs that each feels that aren't being paid attention to for their wards, but personality conflicts in and of itself, because that certainly plays a factor.
It does, and sometimes that is part of human nature. It's the daily engagement of life that we all have. And again, it comes from a focal point of understanding, and you have to know why that difference of opinion exists. It would hopefully be a difference of opinion if I have the opportunity to serve in the role of mayor. And a difference of opinion doesn't necessarily have to escalate to conflict. But you also have to have a sense of trust. And I firmly believe that, and my friend Bernie and Jamie have heard me talk about this before too. I'm very open and transparent, and that transparency leads to truth, and truth leads to trust. There's a book called The Speed of Trust by Stephen Covey, and what it talks about is a basic formula that when trust goes down, then costs go up, and speed of accomplishment goes down. And so you have to be able to be open and understanding with personalities on the council and the human nature of a difference of opinion, and so that it doesn't arise to a level of conflict, you work from and lead with relationships built on trust. And that means keeping the council informed rather than surprising them at the last minute. One instance in particular, I recall that the paper reported when it was first announced in 2012 that the mayor wanted a 9.5% rate increase for CWLP. The paper reported there were gasps from the alderman in the horseshoe. Gasps does not imply that there was an initial meeting to let the council know what was going to be offered, and particularly a 9.5% utility rate increase. So you have to be open, you have to be upfront, you have to be transparent, and you have to lead from a vantage point of trust so that there's no concern about where you're coming from and what you're wanting to do. And if people know that they can trust you, then they will understand what you're trying to accomplish, even if they disagree. And if they do disagree, then you can come together on what their opinion is and what our opinion is, and then you move forward in that regard.
Two quick things on that. If you had a meeting with those people, you'd have to do it individually, or else it would be a violation of the Open Meeting Act.
Let's open it up.
No, and because they got to tell them.
Sure.
Sometime. And the other thing is, if you just tell them one by one of those aldermen is going to be nice and tell us. So it's blown. That wouldn't have bothered you.
But why do you call it blown? Why can't it just be?
It's fine.
Why can't it just be there?
No, that's right. Speaking of CWLP, you have proposed, like, there's $8.5 million that the pilot money, the payment in lieu of taxes, and you want to wean the city from that, and the mayor actually had come on to have a press conference to say we can't do that, and certainly in a way that you have talked about, which is what you did at the county, which is voluntary severance of employees, because he says like 90% of city employees are unionized. They would not. It just wouldn't save the money you want, and you'd lose too much institutional knowledge. So, is he right, or are you right? And can the city survive a hit over some years of $8.5 million taken away from services that are arguably reasonably paid for by CWLP because they do get city services?
That's a good question, and I would tell you this: an initial response from individuals of "you can't do that" or "that won't work" are really roadblocks to making some kind of progress. We have to do something, and we have to start with thinking out and brainstorming and offering ideas. I'm offering an idea that has worked successfully in Sangamon County government. It's saved, since 2008, $2 million every fiscal year. And let's examine, and those were in concert with the input of bargaining units and elected officials at the county level. And so why can't we investigate how that can be successful? And if a specific idea and how it's offered isn't the best right way, let's work with bargaining units. Let's present the reason why we need to do this for the strength, health, and attractability and affordability of the city. And so let's collaborate, work together, and determine what that idea can blossom into for working at the city level.
What percentage of county employees are unionized, or some rough number?
I don't.
Less than the city, isn't it?
I don't have that rough percentage at the top of my head, but I can get that for you.
Paul, you talked a lot about how the concepts that you talked about apply to the fact that more than half of the council will be new, in addition to a new mayor. How do you change that culture? How do you influence it?
Well, I would believe that they would be very applicable, whether you'd served for 8 years or just coming on to the team. We'd work together to make sure that those new aldermen to service at the city level would have a chance to, let's bring in some individuals from UIS that could help them get up to speed on how city government operates, meet with existing aldermen and past aldermen to help get them a sense and a feel of how service as an alderman is best for impacting their constituents and then the city as a whole. And then as mayor, again, being as inclusive as possible with helping them see what we're offering as potential solutions to the problems the city faces. And if we, you know, as a freshman alderman, need to spend some additional time in the first 6 to 7, 8 months, that's time well invested to help them get up to speed and see the big picture from not only the mayor's office perspective, but also from their fellow veteran alderman perspective too.
Is there currently any kind of orientation for new council members?
I'm sure there is, but I would love to be a part of helping that orientation. Certainly it would be also necessary for a freshman mayor to receive an orientation as well from either educators at UIS or previous individuals who have served in that role, not necessarily just in Springfield, but other individuals who have served successfully in other similar sized communities. But certainly it would be important to be a part of and involved in that orientation with them as a team member and not as a team presenter. I think you need to be on the student side of the table just as well as they are.
What is the UIS person going to tell you that just got elected mayor or how to do?
Well, they probably have some theories that have worked successfully in municipal government or government in general. I believe there's quite a few educators at UIS that kind of relish the opportunity to present some theories to a freshman alderman or a freshman mayor or city treasurer or city clerk. So I believe there's quite a bit that an individual at UIS would have to offer, at least to provide a foundation of thinking that can then be sharpened for Springfield-specific elements and issues. So I think we would need to rely on that, and perhaps even not necessarily UIS itself, but U of I's Institute of Government and Public Affairs, where we've got a few retirees from that institute right here in Springfield. Dr. Paul Craig is a great resource that we can rely on to help freshman office holders come up to speed with the foundation of governmental service that then can be sharpened, as I said earlier, with the Springfield focus and perspective.
How would you define race relations and diversity in the city of Springfield, and what could we expect that to look like 2 years from now?
Well, I was one of the very first individuals to go through the Crossroads program. I went through it before it was popular for individuals to go through the program.
Not as popular as we want it to be yet.
Well, let's work on that. Let's work on that. But before the bandwagon started, of I went through I'm a graduate of the Crossroads program, if that's the proper term. Then I was there for the inaugural program, and so I believe that there has been some progress, but there's always more work to do. And when I mentioned earlier about leading with relationships built on trust, and to begin to continually raise the awareness level of the need to abhor and detest racist attitudes and actions. Again, the mayor not only efficiently and effectively delivers city services, but also has a platform from which to talk about the other kinds of issues that face a community. And engaging in that is something that I feel I have the talents and skills to be able to use. But again, here it goes. It has to be collaborative, and you have to be trustworthy and sincere in the desire to elevate that awareness level and keep it on the forefront so that it doesn't, slip to the back burner. So I believe that I can serve well in that regard and continuously move us forward and attract other individuals, not necessarily in a governmental arena, but how about in other professional arenas to complete the Crossroads experience and training and learn a little bit more about systemic racism and how that is something that needs to be abhorred and ended and how we face it. Now, 2 years from now, which was your original question, hard to predict, but it's not something that you end after you have a snapshot of where you are 2 years from now. Then you build on progress that you've made from 2015 to 2017. And working together with, not only individuals who are of African American descent, but all races and communities in the city to understand what that means, what that is, why it needs to be a board, and why it needs to be moved out of the city.
What would be your plan for increasing diversity on the city's workforce?
I'm a huge fan and proponent of Hanson Engineering's Grow Your Own program. I believe that it's important to, and although it's a long-term solution, it's not going to see results in a very, very short term because it's working with young people. And I believe from my involvement with a lot of young persons organizations in the city, I have a history and experience of working with young people. And so I believe getting the Grow Your Own program template that Hanson Engineering has really kind of set the pace with, we need to offer that template to other professions. Let's talk about a Grow Your Own program for accountancy. Let's talk about a Grow Your Own program for the medical arena. Let's talk about a Grow Your Own for municipal government and law enforcement and fire protection. There are other professions that we can encourage based on Hanson's success. And if we need to meet a team from one profession's firm here in the city of Springfield with the team at Hanson that has fostered Grow Your Own to the success that it is, let's get them together and share ideas and how it can be modified for that particular profession. But so I'm a big fan of Grow Your Own and how we can start that to help keep our minority community, the young people of that community, interested in professions and careers that would then bring them back after they go to college to the city of Springfield. And then we need to look at laterally encouraging minorities to come to the city of Springfield in municipal government, whether it's in law enforcement or fire protection. And first and foremost, we need to help the city of Springfield blossom as a place where individuals of all races will want to come and live and work, and not necessarily have city government employment, but opportunities for employment in general, even outside of the government arena. And so we need to work on making us an attractive community for everybody so that those opportunities are there for everybody as well. And make sure that those opportunities that are not only offered by government, but also by private firms are offered fairly and consistently so that we can achieve what we need to achieve at that.
There's a school of thought out there that, sorry to jump around a little bit.
That's all right.
That CWLP needs a citizens oversight committee. What are your thoughts about such an idea?
Well, I've specifically offered that. And it's not necessarily an oversight committee. And that's my idea can then maybe collaboratively blossom into something that either resembles an oversight, or what I have called it would be an advisory board. And it would be a volunteer committee or board appointed jointly by the mayor and the city council, and then confirmed by the city council, that would, in the way that any major corporation has a board of directors, this group would serve in an advisory capacity to the council and to the utilities leadership team. So I have been on the forefront of such an idea, and I believe it kind of dovetails with some of the other ideas that I've offered for the continued help and moving forward with CWLP, and that's bringing back an entrepreneurial general manager to the role, an individual who has some talents and skills that they can laser focus on the business and the strategy aspect of CWLP. And so I believe that would be an important concept as well. But I'm on the forefront of a volunteer advisory board / committee that could help with shoring up our crown jewel.
Well, the current city council has chosen to operate as a committee of the whole, and your board idea relates to this, so it's not extraneous. You've watched that
Mm-hmm.
in action.
Mm-hmm.
How would you evaluate that approach, and would you have any suggestions for another approach to delving into the issues that are not veneer-like, so that there's a stronger depth of knowledge that is brought to the board's decision?
I would humbly advocate and ask the council to review the committee of the whole concept and perhaps investigate the idea of not necessarily returning, but resurrecting the committee concept where aldermen had a chance to become focused on a particular area of expertise. There had been a public safety committee, there had been a utilities committee, there had been a public works committee, and I'm forgetting the fourth committee. But that committee system had an opportunity for an alderman to serve on each of the committees, sometimes as chair, and the real chance to focus in and know the issues that that particular committee's arena was responsible for. I believe there's merit to that. I believe that if you lead from a concept of trust, the individuals who serve in a particular arena of a committee would have had a chance to get in depth with that issue, and at the city council meeting, after that committee has met, offer suggestions, ordinances, and ways to move the city forward to their colleagues that perhaps don't serve on that committee. But they would have all had a chance to serve on that committee so that they would be at least familiar with those issues in a 2-year time frame of their 4-year term. So I believe there's merit to reinvestigating a specific committee concept and seeing if that might offer a little more opportunity for an alderman to not necessarily have to be a jack of all trades and master of none. I think that helps an alderman to focus in on issues and then better able to provide some leadership in that regard from having that knowledge base of focus.
Did you mention finance?
That's it. Finance would be the fourth. Thank you.
Speaking of finances, statewide and municipally in Illinois, pensions are considered somewhat of a time bomb. You don't want to see taxes go up or fees go up, if I'm correct in that.
That, yes.
So how do you deal with the long-term growing pension plan that even Mayor Davlin was talking about?
Sure. You have to, in fact, I've got a whole file on the pension situation. and there's a number of issues that we need to review for working with the legislature, helping them see that it's not just a Springfield problem, that it's a municipal problem statewide. Now with the opportunity for some additional perspectives with a new governor, perhaps we can work together as a community of mayors, so to speak, to help resurrect the need to address that issue. But you can't just rely on the legislature. You have to then work with the city council to provide some solutions in the short term as well for the pension situation.
I mean, because pension, the guarantee's not going away.
Oh, no. And if the city does not, get on the ball quickly with providing what's required for the pensions, the state will do it for you.
So where do you get the money?
Hopefully we can do a couple things, continue to reduce our expenses from the corporate fund, and then with that also continue to resurrect the tax base to help it bring more revenue by virtue of having more opportunities here in the city of Springfield.
Currently, the property tax, I think about 98% of it is paying for police and fire.
Sure. I think it's 87%.
I'm sorry, 87?
I think it's 87%.
87?
The newspaper must be correct.
Especially the SJR. With the governor talking about freezing property taxes and putting a spotlight on local government, how would you approach the state government to make them aware of the issues locally so that they're not shooting from the hip?
Sure. We have to have that open relationship with leaders at the state level as well. We're hopefully going to be able to establish that open door policy with the administration and express those concerns. I believe that's the best way to answer your question, is that let them know that it's not just a Springfield problem, but a statewide issue for all municipalities. Some municipalities are for example, North Riverside is taking some drastic moves to deal with their fire pension that I don't believe is going to be a successful solution. But
That's privatized their
right,
department.
right. But you know, as North Riverside makes those forays into the solution arena that might not work, you know, then we need to say, okay, that's the worst possible scenario. What can we do together before other municipalities go down a road that's not going to be successful either?
Well, I think the governor actually talked about making bankruptcy easier for local governments so that they can refigure their debt, which means somebody loses. What do you think of that?
I believe that that's not a good approach, and I only base it from what I know about Detroit and what it experiences as its perception. You know, it might be good for Detroit, but how are people going to feel about wanting to do business in Detroit? I mean, right away, that puts a scar on Detroit's potential for being attractive. And when you say, well, I want to start a business in Detroit, immediately the hand goes up. And so a city, if it wants to be attractive, if it wants to foster business opportunities, it must do what it can do before it ventures into that bankruptcy scenario. Otherwise, it then truly is unattractive, in my opinion. That I would so answer your bottom line question, Joan. I do not believe that making it easier for cities to, you know, wash their hands of their financial responsibilities is the way to go.
So
You-
faith, oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say that we're coming up on the end, so
Oh,
we
okay.
can finish up.
So the Faith Coalition was instrumental in putting together an agreement that
Yes,
the mayor,
for the rail.
people, others have agreed to, relative to half dozen different items, but the major focus, frankly, was on minority hiring, especially for the
Mhm.
new rail.
Leroy Jordan is the shepherd of that concept.
And it just seems irony of ironies that between the State Department of Transportation and the mayor's office, they're not able to say, and Hanson, they're not able to say, even today, how many minorities are currently employed in the Carpenter Street project. So any reaction to that? What's your sense of that?
If indeed that is the case, that we're unable to provide numbers to comply with the agreement, we need to find out why we can't, A, why we can't comply, and B, why we can't get correct numbers to measure our ability to comply. I would think it would be a priority to be in compliance with that agreement. We should want to be in compliance with the agreement because we've given our word that we will, and therefore it's incumbent upon the city to work with IDOT to get those numbers and quickly, to be aware of the progress being made, and once we know that progress, to adjust our strategy to get us to where we need to be. So I would think it would be a priority to figure out where we are and then adjust what we've done to enhance our success rate.
Could I ask your position on Hunter Lake?
I believe we need a second water source. I believe we need to continue to aggressively help the Army Corps of Engineers and the EPA see the wisdom of that second water source. If we cannot get that wisdom to be clear on their part, we need to begin looking for additional ways. I'm not saying that we have a pessimistic attitude toward getting that approval, but just to be safe, I think we need to be investigating alternative sources to Hunter Lake now, so that just in case it is another negative response, we're ready. At least we've made progress on additional options. What those options are could be, pipelines to other rivers, other ways. I don't believe the gravel pit was a successful option,
Still be.
but I believe we need to be ready with additional options just in case. But we've already invested. Even now, there's been just another $80,000 invested in an additional study with Crawford, Murphy, and Tilley for another presentation for approval. Let's move forward with all we can to help that study be completed and then presented, get approval, so that we can have our second water source, which I do believe we need. It's better to be prepared than to be caught should that catastrophic drought ever come on to us. We just need to be ready.
What do you see as the difficulty for getting to that conclusion? I mean, the lake was opened the year I was born in 1935. We've been looking at the second lake piece for 40 years.
Sure.
We're about to reach a point of equilibrium here where we've been looking at this need for a new lake almost equal to the time we've had the lake. What can the mayor do to really change that dichotomy that exists and it continues for?
Have a team, have the right people on your team to make the presentation successfully, that it's the time that it needs to happen. The conditions for its need are certainly present. The ability to meet that need is certainly present. And then you need to have a good team that can communicate both in advance and during and follow up to make the presentation. And if it's incumbent upon someone with the talents and skills I bring to the role to, do or get off the pot finally, then I'm willing to make that case.
What's your perception of where the log jam is?
My initial perception is it's federally, and
Corps of Engineers?
I believe so. If I'm mistaken, we can determine what that is, but I believe we've got some of the right people in place that can help us work through that quicksand and help us achieve what we need to achieve.
You've thrown a lot of initiatives and ideas and plans out on the table.
Yes.
Can you walk us through kind of your sense of the most pressing priorities in terms of the order in which you tackle them? What would we see in the first 30 days, 60 days, 90 days of a Palazzolo administration?
Initially, you need to establish the working level of trust, and you need to bring the team together, the elected leadership team, the individual appointees that will be working with those elected officials as well, and talk first and foremost about how to match Springfield's strengths to potential job opportunities. And part of that team must include the Chamber and District 186, the other educational institutions, UIS, LLCC, because that's got to be a part of it too. And first and foremost, we need to get our non-elected team and our elected team to focus in on attracting opportunities, jobs, businesses, plants to the city of Springfield, and dreaming about some of those ideas and brainstorming and having everybody come together with what they bring, talents and skills they bring to the role, and immediately begin starting out on that process. And the second thing I believe we need to do is engage a city planner to help strategize ways that currently might hinder us. If all of these canvases that are being created by raising and demolishing abandoned buildings, if a city planner can help us look at things differently in terms of how those abandoned, or now those blank properties are platted, maybe we need to talk about some out-of-the-box thinking on replatting so that those abandoned locations, not abandoned anymore, but raised, demolished locations become more attractive to businesses and residential developers, and helping. And another thing immediately is to help change the culture that might put too many restrictions on developers and businesses' desires to bring potential businesses to the city of Springfield, and kind of be a one-stop kind of shop clearinghouse to help businesses achieve what they want to achieve at the speed of business rather than the speed of government.
We have hit our time. You probably have other things you need to do today, I would imagine, because I have
Actually, I'm quite,
a good 10 or 15 other questions that we've gotten.
I'm rather enjoying the opportunity to visit with you.
I have one thing short.
Please.
You talked about collaborating with UIS and,
Yeah.
and
Oh, sure I have.
Particularly, I missed it.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. In fact, I've met
I'm
with,
thinking of the grow your own concept.
yes?
Because they are doing that in District 186 as well.
Okay.
I don't know if you were at that.
I've met with Jennifer Gill specifically, and Mike Zimmers, school board president, specifically. And 186 is a key component to helping foster growth and strength in the city of Springfield. And as mayor, I know that the mayor, he or she cannot tinker with 186 issues and activities, but the mayor, he or she can be, as I like to refer to it, the champion in chief of District 186's success stories. And the mayor can include him or herself into activities of 186, and at, of course, the permission of the leadership of 186. But certainly to be a role model about what Springfield can mean and why they would want to, after their high school career is complete or their collegiate career is complete, why they would want to return to the city of Springfield to work and enjoy cultural attractions that we would foster. But I do believe that the mayor needs to play an active, integral role in helping 186 and parochial schools be the best that they can be, so that we can attract families and businesses to the city of Springfield. Those businesses look and say, how's your educational system? And the mayor needs to be able to say, I've seen it, I've immersed myself in it, and I can tell you that it is fantastic. And the leadership team of 186 and other schools, as well as UIS, LLCC, Robert Morris, offer educational opportunities for all ages and market that strength to what we need to foster here in the city of Springfield. But I intend to be an active partner with 186. Like I say, met with Jennifer Gill and Mike Zimmers, and that needs to be on the forefront for helping trumpet what we need to do with strengthening Springfield.
But we can let you have the last word quickly about why you're candidacy.
I would just close by saying I believe that this role is a service leader role, and it requires two elements to it: the ability to effectively deliver city services, efficiently and effectively deliver city services, and be a dynamic leader for the city of Springfield. I think the role is two hats, and I believe that I have the talents and skills, a record of accomplishment, having served as county auditor for the last 12 years, that has shown that I can effectively and deliver and efficiently deliver municipal services, but also have the ability to communicate well, the ability to lead well, the ability to collaborate well and generate a team spirit well. I believe that that's what's required of this role, needed in this role to help us move forward as a city. And as I've said before, to be a great city that just also happens to be the capital of Illinois.